kind of stole my thunder with asking who all was in the military and all that. That's okay. It is the soldier, not the minister, who has given us the freedom of religion. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us the freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us the freedom of speech. It is the soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to protest. It is the soldier, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the soldier, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, that allows the protester to burn the flag. Karen is the current state coordinator, and when she came on to Quilts of Valor as a district coordinator, I told her I was training her for my job, and she said, "No, you're not." Yes, I did. But she wants me to do the presentation. So. Quilts of Valor is a grassroots organization that started in 2003 by Catherine Roberts, who was an OBGYN nurse as well as a quilter. Her son Nate was stationed overseas, and she was always, to quote her, 10 seconds away from panic waiting on the phone call. She had a dream one night. There was a service member sitting on his bunk battling his war demons. The next scene of the dream, he had a quilt around him and was comforted. So she decided at that point, let's come up with something, and Quilts of Valor was born. The first recipient was either I think he was a quadriplegic that was in Bethesda, having served in Iraq, and unfortunately, he was severely injured, but he got the first Quilt of Valor. As of this morning, at about 9:30, we have awarded 340,000 quilts, 406. It's our 20th anniversary, but if you divide 340,406 quilts by 20 years, by 12 months, by 30 days, it's an average about 30 quilts a day. The caveat to that is we are losing 372 World War II veterans a day, which makes us some 9,000 to 10,000 quilts short for just World War II. That doesn't include Korea, that doesn't include Vietnam. We'll take anything you want to do to help. Press, fabric, sew, anything. Because I look at blocks as pennies. If you see a penny, you pick it up. And after 100, you have $1. You make a block. After 20 blocks, you have a quilt top. Our foundation represents one human being reaching out and touching another without judgment, reaching out with acceptance and acknowledgement of the service to our nation in very trying circumstances. Our quilts are awarded, they're not handed out. A quilt brings a three-part message. First, we honor you for your service. We honor you for leaving all you held dear to stand in harm's way in the time of crisis, protecting us from the effects of war. Next, our quilters realize that freedom is not free. The cost of freedom is the dedication of the lives of the men and women, and this quilt is made to say thank you. Here's my Quilt of Valor type story. My mother and daddy were 4 days away from getting married. My daddy was stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. My mother was in Nashville, Tennessee. My mother receives a telegram that says, cancel all wedding plans. Stop, we'll call later. 2:30 the next morning, my dad calls my mother, says, I love you dearly. I will not marry you. I will not make your wartime bride. I have orders. My daddy was going to Korea, and it was 1950. He did not think he was coming home and he wouldn't marry her. He served 13 months over in Korea, went 6 weeks without brushing his teeth and washing his hair. He wrote my grandfather and said, I'm not coming home, take care of Carolyn. They found my grandfather's response back to him, but unfortunately my mother destroyed the letter stating that it was too difficult to remember some things. Daddy got to California, home his 13 months, got to California, called my mother up and said, when are we getting married? She says, East Coast, West Coast. He says, I don't care what it takes, make it happen. And in 16 days, they were married, and they lacked 89 days being married, 42 years when my dad passed away. Could you have managed? They altered my mother's wedding dress down twice. My dad never went to bed without brushing his teeth or washing his hair. unless he was hospitalized and could not actually do it. So for those of us that have never seen combat or been in a war zone, there's no way we can ever begin to imagine what they go through. And to be touched by war, you can be something as a line server on an aircraft carrier, and that pilot comes through, you're touched by war. A Quilt of Valor is not a charity quilt. A Quilt of Valor is not a blanket. And if you're a quilter, you know there are 3 layers to a quilt. The first is the top of the quilt with its many colors, shapes, fabrics, and represents the many communities that we are. There's some 10,000 quilters in Quilts of Valor. The batting, the filler, is the center of the quilt, and it's warm. It represents our hope that this quilt will bring warmth, comfort, peace to the individual who receives it. And the backing is the strength that supports the other layers. It represents the strength of the recipient, the support of his or her family, our communities, and our nation. And each stitch holds the layers together that represents love, gratitude, and sometimes the tears of the maker. Each quilt has a label attached to it. This quilt will be registered probably Monday, so it will be counted in that 340,000. But today our recipient is Tamara Gibson. In the Army from September of 1981 until April 2007. She was a chief warrant officer when she retired. She was a parachute rigger for 24 years. She was an airborne instructor for 2 years.
Wow.
And to me, could not come at a better time with what was yesterday, International Women's Day or something. She was the first female to be first sergeant at Airborne School at Fort Benning. In 1994, she was first of 3 females to jump into Normandy, France for a D-Day reenactment.
Wow.
So Tamara, on behalf of the Quilts of Valor Foundation and a grateful nation, we wrap you in your quilt, and most importantly, ma'am, welcome home. So this quilt, now you become part of our quilting family. And when we wrap somebody, we call it giving them a quilty hug. I will tell you this, if you should wear it out, I will replace it. I awarded a 95-year-old gentleman several years ago, I think he lacked a month, 6 weeks before he turned 96. And I said, if you wear it out, I'll replace it. He looked at me, he says, I'm going to. So you can't beat that. This is specifically for you. Pieces of cloth from people who care to honor your service, it only seems fair. Carefully chosen materials of red, white, and blue, sewn together for those patriotic and true. A top piece together with caring and pride, then quilted with backing a warm layer inside. Every stitch and seam sewn from the very start, with appreciation and gratitude straight from your heart. For you who have sacrificed for those here at home, may this quilt warm and comfort you wherever you roam. Our hope with this quilt is to make sure you knew we appreciate all you've done and all you've been through.
This is a certificate to her. The Quilts of Valor Foundation wishes to recognize you for your service to our nation. We consider it our privilege to do so. Though we may never know the extent of your sacrifice to protect and defend the United States of America, we award you this Quilt of Valor as an expression of gratitude for your donation.
I know there are a couple of Quilts of Valor recipients in the audience. Would you either stand up or wave, please? John over at Quilting Cushion is also a recipient of our Quilts of Valor. Thank you.